So I would like to introduce you to our two guest speakers that we have today. So you'll know Aidan very well from his time in our series over the last, years. I think we've been working together now, Aidan. So very exciting to have Aidan joining us. And we're also joined by Barath, who is working at Pax8 as well. So what I will do is just move to the next slide, and I'll get you both to formally introduce yourselves, I think, just to give everybody that's on the call a little bit of an idea about what your roles are at Pax8. But before I do, I want to remind everyone that we like our sessions to be as interactive as possible. So we've got a Q&A button up the top there on your Teams screen, and we would love for you to put any of your questions that may pop into your mind throughout the session into the Q&A section there. I will be reviewing them all the way throughout the session. And if I see something that's pertinent to the slides and what the speakers are talking about at the time, I'll feed them in your question so that you get best meaning out of the session. And if there's something there that's more general, I'll probably save it to our Q&A at the end. But please do actively use that Q&A button. We want to make sure that this webinar is best suited for you and that you get the most out of it. So what I will do now is I'm going to hand over to Aidan. And so Aidan, could you do a little bit of an intro about yourself, Pax8, and also kind of carve the pathway through for Barath as well?
Yeah, perfect. No, thanks very much, Sarah. And thanks for having myself and Barath from the Pax8 team back again. It's always great to work with the KMT team and amazing to see the attendance that we have for the session today. I do see some familiar names in there, but also quite a few new ones. So it's great to see that everyone's got such an interest in this topic. My name's Aidan Clifford. I'm the manager of Microsoft Alliances for Pax8 here in APAC. So really navigating the partnership for KMT into the Microsoft ecosystem, making sure we can understand all of these changes, these amazing opportunities for productivity, but security considerations along the way when it comes to things like AI and Copilot and all the investments that everyone are probably considering on how they can evolve with their technology spend. For those of you who've joined these sessions before, we have focused a lot on the Copilot for Microsoft 365 side of the fence. So it's really about that one-to-one experience of how you can use Copilot to navigate your data, your documents, your Teams meetings, using it in Word and PowerPoint, all of these great scenarios. But I'm really excited to introduce Barath to the conversation and more of the Pax8 team as we see what's next, what's the frontier of where this AI conversation is going. And a lot of those stops end up in what's called agents. So Barath will do some great dives into a briefing on what agents are and some practical demos around this. But the way I like to think about it is rather than that one-to-one experience of you speaking to your AI model and getting a response back, agents is thinking about how we can use it to navigate sort of repeatable bottlenecks within the organization, repeatable productivity opportunities, and making sure that it comes back with a more limited scope on where it's accessing data and a more consistent, more precise response depending on what the next step in that journey or next automation requirement is as well. So it's really exciting. It's really it's a new frontier of where a lot of businesses are starting to integrate solutions into basically some of the bottlenecks, as I mentioned. But what I'll do is I'll pass over to Barath just to introduce himself as well and start to run through what we'll be covering in the content of the topic today.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Aidan. So for those who don't know me, myself, Barath, I'm the Microsoft Business Application Business Manager here at Pax8. So just looking after anything business application. So I'm here to take you through some of the interesting contents around, Copilot Studio, like what are agents, and then walk you through some of the live demo in terms of how can you create a simple agent and show you some of the use cases, that you can relate to on your day-to-day scenarios. Cool. So let me just quickly take control. All right. So here's what we got lined up today, right? So what we are going through today is, just go through some of the basics, in terms of getting an understanding of what Copilots are and what are the different types of Copilot, that are available to you. For you to access, then cover a little bit around prompting, and in terms of, what are the best way to prompt, and what are the few things that you need to remember, when you start prompting or when you give a prompt to Copilot. Then we will cover a brief details on explaining what are agents, what are the primary difference between Copilot and an agent. then finally covering a few more slides around some of the exciting updates that Microsoft has launched, over the late last year around their Ignite edition. So there have been quite a few updates from Microsoft around the AI space. So we will just walk you some of the key important updates, that are relevant for you to take back and work on. And finally, we'll end up the session by doing a live demo of an agent, building an agent through the agent builder, and also I'll walk you through some of the use cases on how you can use the agent mode feature, which has been one of the launches during the Ignite edition within your familiar M365 apps with Word, Outlook, and Excel. And as Sarah mentioned, like there will be time for Q&A, so feel free to post your questions, in the Q&A chat, and we will try and answer them as we go through the session. All right, so moving on to the first section. So I just want to quickly give an overview of the different ways of how you can access Copilot. So there are basically two different ways on how you can access Copilot, which is the M365 Copilot Chat, and the other version is called the M365 Copilot. So what is the primary difference between those two versions? So M365 Copilot Chat is basically the basic version of the Copilot application. So this M365 Copilot Chat is available to pretty much everyone who are using M365 subscription. That comes at no additional cost. And with the M365 Copilot Chat, you will be able to access features like text generation, image generation, or doing basic data analysis through the chat. The important thing in using this free version is this version of Copilot Chat is basically web grounded, which means it can reason over the entire internet and pull in the relevant information. Say, for example, like getting help with tasks like drafting an email, or getting summaries of the document that you upload. So those are some of the basic functionalities which you can get by using this M365 Copilot Chat. In saying that, you would still be able to access some of the high-end features like getting access to creating agents, and which can be used for internal purpose. Maybe not. Maybe it can't extend to like additional versions of getting custom connectors and everything, but you would still be able to create agents using this basic feature. And in terms of the security controls, M365 Copilot Chat does provide the high-end security that you get in the premium feature. So this is the basic version of the chat, which everyone would have been familiar with. So just moving on to the full version or the premium version, which is basically called as the M365 Copilot. So M365 Copilot is basically the one AI solution when it comes to using the enterprise data for using AI, within your company, right? So this M365 Copilot Chat does come with all the basic features that the previous, the basic version of the Copilot chat version has, but it does also come with additional AI-powered search engines with a variety of models, including the GPT-5s, and with the recent launch of the Claude Sonnet models into Copilot that can be utilized. And with the premium version of the M365 Copilot, you'll be getting access to sort of the high-end version of creating the agents, in terms of getting your agents connected to external sites, publishing your agent to external users, to automate some of your workflows. So again, right? So think of M365 Copilot as an one AI solution for you, that comes with high-end chat features, high-end search feature, and also having the capability to create high-end agents to automate some of the workflows.
And Barath, I might just jump in there for a second as well, because you did mention something really, really interesting, which I know a lot of the people on the call will be interested to hear around there being new models in Copilot. So historically, Copilot has just operated under the OpenAI GPT models, which everyone would be familiar with from, say, ChatGPT or previously using Copilot. But now we're able to access some of the Claude models within Copilot. So it's now a multi-model system, giving that extra flexibility and those extra options depending on which sort of tasks you're looking to do at hand. So an amazing sort of evolution of the platform there. So I just want to highlight that. I know we'll mention it later on, but it's I know some people's ears will prick up when they hear Claude, because they're probably testing it out at home at the moment.
Oh, no, awesome. Thanks, Aidan. 100%. So I think Copilot has evolved quite a lot, over the last year or so, by including some advanced models, so which is really great for end users to start using. Cool. So over the next few slides, I just want to, give a quick introduction on some of the, good habits of, having a good prompt. So so I just want to walk through some of the core ingredients of what a good prompt looks like. So just to make sure, the output of the Copilot becomes predictable, it's relevant for you as an individual, and it becomes more easy to use. So if we walk through this example of the prompt, that you can see on the screen, where it asks for, 3 to 5 prep points, for a client meeting, it narrows down to the topic of, to discuss the phase 3 brand campaign. So these are some of the pointers which you need to look for, right? So the 4 important ingredients are, you need to be specific on the goal in terms of that you need to achieve with the prompt. It's important that you have some context in the prompt, that you give to the Copilot, and at the same time, it would be super cool, like, to specify the exact source to get a more relevant information as the output response from the Copilot that you want to get. So as you can see, like, goal, context, source, and the expectations, right? So where goal is predominantly, what responses would you like to get from Copilot, is helping to define what response that you would like to get is really important. And adding a little bit of source in terms of, as you can see in this example prompt, where it says focus on Teams emails and chats in Zoom, right? So we are being specific on the source of information, directing the Copilot to look for, so it narrows down the right information for you to fetch. So so it is one of the important pillars, to narrow down the right information for Copilot to get back. And again, right, giving expectations of how we want Copilot to respond is also another important factor in terms of, say, you want to have a response to be generated as a table. You want the response to be generated, as a text. So those are some of the ways, or in terms of, defining an expectations into the prompt. So having a goal, context, and giving the source and expectation is a really way of having a good prompt putting into Copilot. So just few things to remember again, in regards to prompting. So we do understand, like, using Copilot and prompting on Copilot or basically habits that needs to be developed, because you are looking to consistently improve the results, when you are working with Copilot or any language model. So it's important, like, to be specific, like, just don't ask for a summary, right? So it's important that you name the audience, you give the tone, you give the format. So it's pretty much calling out the deliverable that you need, in regards to the goal that you want to achieve. Then, yeah, like, if you're not sure, like, what to provide, ask what inputs that Copilot needs, right? So whether does it need, any other data for it to read the information, any other examples, or any other definition of success, right? So if the output isn't right, ask Copilot to rewrite your prompt and ask the Copilot to explain what it changed. So this is a fast way to learn, better prompting patterns. So so you get better of writing a good prompt. So you get a better experience, in using Copilot as well. And again, right, focusing on quality is another important thing to remember. Having a good structure really matters. Having a good punctuation in the prompt is really important. So just keeping the instructions consistent, avoiding sudden topic shifts and steering away from, say, jargon words or ambiguous terms. I know there are a lot of jargon terms that are out there in the world, which we all use pretty often, on a day-to-day basis. So it's really important to focus on the quality of the prompt that you give, in terms of the language as well. So, and start reading this conversation as an iteration, right? So start broad and then start refining. So ask for various options, request improvements, and progressively narrow to the exact output you want. So again, the takeaway is pretty simple, right? Having a clear goal, clear context, plus constraints and iteration is obviously going to give a more reliable, better output for you. Cool. So moving on to the next section. So now that we have established, like, Copilot is the interface for AI, so I just want to give a quick overview of what are agents, right? So agents use AI to automate and execute business processes. that can work alongside or on behalf of a person or a team or an organization. So that is a simple broad statement, in terms of what are agents, right? So and it's really important to understand that agents do vary in the level of complexity and capabilities depending on your needs, right? So it can range from having a simple agent, and moving through the process of building an advanced or an autonomous agent. So ideally, agents are broken down into three different types. One is the retrieval agent, the other is the task agent, and the other is the autonomous agent. So think of simple agents of more as an retrieval agent, right? So where they retrieve information and just answer questions. So you put in a question and you get a response back. It's more of, so that's more of a simple agent, and in between there's something called as a task agent. So task agents are or the type of agents that can take actions on behalf of you or can start automating the workflows, and replacing the repetitive tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis. So those it's like you need a little bit of a human intervention and a little bit of automation. So that's where the task agents do lie in between, and autonomous agents or the advanced agents, or those agents which can operate independently, where they can plan dynamically and even communicate with other agents in terms of having multi-agent orchestration into your business process. So few things to understand is agents are something that can work alongside or either on behalf of individuals or teams or the entire organization. So think of them as digital teammates, right? So they are not just tools, so they are just helping you to get more done with basically lesser effort. So and the real power of the agents lies like in their ability to learn and adapt to the data, right? So as they start interacting with the user systems, they try to gather the data, refine their process, and probably improve over time, right? So as I said, right, start imagining an agent to answer basic questions. So start simple and then always move through the process of building towards the advanced ones. Cool. All right, so we have seen what is Copilot, what are the different types of Copilot. We have seen what is the good prompting behavior. We have seen what are agents. So but something which I want to clear up the difference is what is the difference between an M365 Copilot and an agent. So just because they work together means they are not the same thing. So think of Copilot of being your personal assistant, right? So it works with M365 data, right? It works with your applications to help with, say, summarizing, analyzing, writing, in all sort of productivity tasks. So it is basically user driven, right? So you ask it to do something and it responds. So for example, draft me an email or summarize this meeting. So it behaves like a personal assistant to you. But whereas agents, on the other hand, are pretty much, they are goal driven, right? So they can automate the workflow, they can handle conversations for you, they can act on their own, based on the triggers. So it's pretty much they are not waiting for you to ask. They can kick off the process automatically and dynamically. So agents can also connect to external data, APIs, workflows. So they become more brilliant for, like having this custom AI experiences. So think of it this way, right? So Copilot pretty much helps individuals to get things done faster, whereas agents, can transform an entire process or departments, within your organization. So that's pretty much the primary difference, But and the best part is, you can, with the agents, you can start using low code or pro code tools, like Agent Builder, Copilot Studio, which we will go through later on the slide. So this is the primary difference. I think it's really important to get this clarified because you need to understand what is Copilot, what are agents, so you have a clear picture of when to use what and where. Cool. So yeah, I think that's all we got for what are agents, what are Copilot and everything. So I think we just want to cover a few updates from the Ignite edition that happened, was it late last year? So as you can see on the screen, here are some of the new updates that Microsoft has launched into some of the M365 ecosystem, into the agent ecosystem, and also even with the Copilot chat. So with the Copilot chat, one of the key updates is the agent mode, or I think they have now renamed to Copilot in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. So, but it's basically called as an agent mode within your productivity suite, and there have been quite a few launches around the different agents, across the wider Microsoft ecosystem, like Sales Development Agent, Workflows Agent, Workforce Insights. So you will be able to see some of these pre-built agents within your existing M365 Copilot app. If you're using a licensed version, you'll be able to see some of these pre-built templates, which you can start using for your day-to-day activities. But the other key updates, around the overarching M365 Copilot is the launch of the Work IQ, right? So we will cover a little bit of details in terms of letting you know what is Work IQ and why it matters and how it's going to change the way you work on a day-to-day basis. So that's an important feature that's been launched. And yeah, I think there has been few SharePoint agent versions update that has also been happened. So this is basically an overarching updates in regards to what is the focus around the Microsoft in regards to the AI and agentic approach. Eden, you want to add anything to the slide?
Yeah, I was going to mention that I appreciate everyone on the call. You may not work in tech full time as well, but I do realize how much everyone is trying to keep up to speed with everything is changing in the market. The rate of change is pretty phenomenal. It's not something that I've seen in my career of tech. The pace is definitely increasing. So we also understand that through that increased rate of change, it's very hard for everyone who's focusing on their own businesses and their own roles to sort of cut through the noise, cut through the ambiguity, and see where that really that opportunity is. So we've just kind of want to show a bit of a glimpse into what it looks like from that Microsoft side, how quickly things are changing, especially with this new overlay of AI with that development cycle as well. But this is what we really want to make sure is that you're working with the KMT team. We're working with KMT as well to help make sure that we're cutting through the noise of what's relevant to you guys, and then putting through more of these sessions and the demos that Bharath will be showing in a few moments' time to see where is the value going to be landing for you guys. But this is where there is a lot out there. So how do we make sure we transition that into something that's really sort of useful and impactful for everyone's businesses here in Australia?
Awesome. Excited. Right. So moving on to the slide of Work IQ. So this is something pretty new that Microsoft did launch, within the Copilot layer. So Work IQ is nothing but an intelligence layer, that is acting behind the scenes within M365 Copilot, right? So where it can understand you, it can understand you as an individual, can understand you in your role in your company, where it can where you can work with your work data, like in regards to collecting the data, rich data with your emails, files, meetings, chats, and pretty much getting an understanding of your day-to-day workflow, right? So and second, in regards to the memory, right? So it can store your work patterns, so it can understand your habit of work. It learns your style. It learns your preferences, and it pretty much maps the entire Copilot experience for you as an individual. So that's a really, really cool aspect, where you have an AI assistant that can behave for certain things that you expect to do, by understanding yourself as an individual, right? So that's a really good one. So the third one is the inference, right? So which combines the data and the memory to make valuable connections, unlocking insights, and predicting the next best action for you. So for example, like Copilot can suggest what is the right agent for a particular task, based on your prompt and intent. So that is the level of intelligence that Microsoft has included in Copilot with the launch of the Work IQ. So just a quick update on this launch. So now the M365 productivity apps has got this feature called Agent Mode, which is Copilot in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, where they are pretty much basically specialized agents, where you can use those agents to create high quality Office content directly using the Copilot chat. So we'll be going through a demo shortly, on how we can use this word agent to just reduce the amount of time that you normally take to say draft a document or draft an PowerPoint or Excel. So it's a really cool feature to use on a day-to-day basis. Cool. Awesome. All right. So moving on, I think it's demo time. So I just want to give a quick. Oops.
Brad, while you're loading that one up as well, I saw there was a question from Lisa, just around, I believe it was around work IQ, as in, does the intelligence layer automatically work in the background when you're activating Copilot, or is that something that needs to be activated manually?
So it does work in the background. So there isn't any special toggle feature that you need to activate. So it's pretty much a new intelligence layer that Microsoft is launching to understand the individual as as a user, to give you better experience with Copilot.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, because I think that's one of the things where people can be confused. It's rather than having to manually turn a lot of these things on in the background, the consideration's more around the governance of when it is landing in your organization, making sure everyone has the right level of access as an individual and through SharePoint sites, Teams, and your documentation labeling and stuff like that as well. So definitely a conversation to pick up with the KMT team as to where your current data structure is today, and also what the considerations are when you're turning your Copilot instances on. But thanks, Brett. Back to you.
Oh, awesome. I just want to explain the use case that we are going to see the demo. So we are going to build an customer service agent. So so that you can relate to some of your day-to-day business operations. I know customer service teams does work hard, creating the policy, but always the policy interpretation varies, and your end customers do feel that inconsistency of getting the information. So today I'll just show how we build one customer-facing service agent, and then reusing that particular agent within some of your productivity apps like Microsoft Word, and making use of the agent mode to make sure that policy is clear and the agent can give consistent answers to every customer that can trust. Cool. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen. Wait. Sure, everyone can see my screen now?
Yes, that's working. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm pretty sure everyone would have been familiar with this window if you have got an M365 Copilot license version. So you can just access this window from your desktop app or through the web browser. So this is the M365 Copilot app, and as we saw on the screenshot, where this is the place where you can chat, you can search, you can start building agent. So,
and is sorry to interrupt, Barath, but so if you're on the non-paid, non-enterprise version of Copilot, do users that are using Copilot Chat, the free version, get this sort of options presented to them? I actually have been on the M365 one for so long, I can't recall what it looks like without it.
Yeah. I think the UI will pretty much remain the same, but the features are really limited. As I mentioned, like you won't be able to view some of these pre-built agents like researcher, analyst, agent, and all those things. So the features are really limited, but in terms of the actual UI, you will still be having this chat window, the search window,
all the basic stuff.
Gives you the ability to search over the internet and the web.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's helpful.
Go. So as you can see here, this little section called agents. So this is where you will be able to look at some of the pre-built agents from Microsoft, or you can click on this all agents view, that's been launched by Microsoft, like the researcher agents and everything. So for today's demo, we are going to create a new agent. So, and for you to do it, you just hit this plus icon to create an agent. And again, right, if you go back and remember the 3 different agents, starting from a simple agent to autonomous agent. So the agent which we are creating is a simple agent for today's demo. So you can very well, try and create one simple agent for yourself down the lane. Cool. So, so this is the agent builder. Once you click that create agent button, so there are two different ways on how you can create an agent. So you can either describe to Copilot itself on the type of agent that you want to create. So that's one way, or you can configure the agent directly that you want to create. So I'm gonna try and configure the agent so I will be able to showcase the different options, features that are available in the agent builder that you can use. Cool. So
and some people might want to be following along with their own version of their Microsoft 365 hanging off the side there. I know that we've done these in the past, and that can be quite helpful if you try and click along.
Yeah. Cool. And again, right? So there is also a third way on how we can create an agent. So that is by using a template. So Microsoft has created few templates. Say like you want a customer insight assistant agent, or you want to say an interview questions assistant agent. So you can very well use a template that's been already built out for you to get started. So which can be one of the easiest way. If you haven't built an agent before or used Copilot before. So it's one of the easiest ways for you to get started to use a template, for your business case and start creating the agent. So I think the first detail to be given here is, so you give an agent name, right? So I'm going to call it as retail customer service, say self-service agent. So it says, or I'm just going to say, I'm just going to call it as a customer service agent because I have exceeded the character limit. Cool. And I'm going to describe what the agent is, right? So I want this agent to provide, customer-facing support for, say, retail customers to use approved company policies to answer some of the common questions, say, about returns, refunds, or shipping and delivery and everything, right? So I'm just going to describe this agent on what I want it to do. So this agent provides customer-facing support for retail customers using approved company policies only, right? I'm just going to keep it short for the sake of time. And if you look at this next part, so this is a really, really important section in terms of how we want an agent to behave, right? So this is where you instruct an agent what it should do, right? So where you would be able to define the tone, you give the outline, you give any rules or guidelines that the agent must follow. So it's pretty much, the instructions to be given by us, for an agent to act, behave, and do everything. So what I'm going to do is I've got a pre-built instruction ready so that I don't waste time in just typing. Just going to copy paste that over here. So this is an example of an instruction that can be given to an agent, right? So you can see we are giving instruction. We are saying that you are a customer facing, say, retail customer self-service agent, right? So so we are being specific that this is an customer-facing agent. So making sure that the agent understand that it is interacting with the end customers, and we are giving the primary responsibility where to help the customers resolve some of the common questions using approved policy documents only. So we are instructing the agent to make use of the approved policy documents that we use internally to answer any of your customer queries. And in regards to the knowledge rules, so what I have done is I have just created 3 different policy documents, like the return and refund policy, or the shipping and delivery SLA, and like an escalation playbook, which has got like just trying to mimic the different policy documents that we might have, from a customer facing or a retail scenario. So I'm just saying that, the agent needs to use the knowledge source of these 3 documents, and and if the information is missing, if the agent, doesn't able to find the answer, I'm saying, not to create its own policy or not to hallucinate, right? So that the agent is pretty specific to the customer, to the needs within the company, and not giving any, hallucinated response, right? So,
Barath, can I pause you for a second? Or maybe Aiden and I both pausing you for the same reason. The team are really interested to see what exactly you've put there in the scope for this agent. So are you able to, because given that you've just copied and pasted it in there, would you mind copying and pasting it into the chat just so that people can have a look at that gorgeous text in there and what you've considered? Also, while I've paused you, Pawani is asking, why did you go to configure first instead of describe, given that it looks naturally like you might move from one through to the other? I guess as a standard person jumping on, they might do that, but you've gone into configure first instead of describe.
Yeah, I think the reason why I chose configure is, to give a more step-by-step approach on how you can create agents. So, I mean, if you're going to describe to Copilot, it's going to pre-build all the instruction by itself, and you might have to go through and read all the instruction that Copilot has generated, which might be time-consuming. So I just want to go through.
Is it more so that you already know what you want from this agent, so you've put it in configure? But if you were in describe, you'd be more sort of describing to Copilot what you're aiming to get out of it, and then it would then format.
Yeah, everything for you.
A version of what you've put into configure. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Pawani. Let us know in the chat if not. Thanks.
I might just jump in there as well, because this is where I really enjoy working with Barath, because Barath is more on the technical side of the spectrum, so I always hit him up for these kind of details as well. But because this is where I think some of the sort of intimidation of agents comes in, but also what the opportunity is, because everyone thinks a little bit differently on how you can create them from scratch. So people who are a bit more used to sort of long form writing or putting those instructions in through natural language, the describe function would be more built up for that. If you've been more operationally sort of focused on what you're doing as well, the configuration side will probably lean into more how you're going to be working from that side. And something that I've done when I've been creating these in the past is similar to the comment I put earlier. You're able to utilize Copilot to write these instructions for you as well. So if you're kind of a little bit unsure, you want to kind of take a step away before you get into the agent builder as well, just start spitballing into the Copilot itself, saying, please structure this in a way that's in clear dot points with clear subheadings. This is the intention of what the agent I want to do. And then you can kind of put as much information through and then just do a quick review. Just help save some time and get it into the format that Barath has, is just really clear and impactful when you're going to start executing the agent.
That's a great pro tip, Aiden. There's been some questions and some thoughts sharing in the chat already. So a lot of people saying that they actually use ChatGPT to help formulate a Copilot prompt that's successful. You're using Copilot itself to develop prompts or agent building information. Should there be any benefit of going outside Copilot to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude to develop prompts, or just simply asking Copilot, given that it already does have the reach in now into Claude, should we be able to just ask Copilot to help us every time?
I kind of say in Copilot, but I've come from a Microsoft perspective, so that's where I do utilize it. Yeah. The only consideration is exactly the main consideration I have with Copilot in a business scenario is it's aligned to your security and governance frameworks that are already in play in M365. When it comes to doing things like generating prompts, chances are you're talking at a conversational level. You're not attaching PII or things that would be a consideration outside of that ring fence. If there is PII in those instructions, definitely keep it in the Copilot ecosystem. But if you want to use a second opinion, or you've got a model that you prefer to use in your outside of Copilot, then by all means, I don't think there's any damage in doing that. And it can, because the models do things slightly differently. These days, there should be a pretty good line between Copilot and ChatGPT, though, as Copilot has caught up with how quickly it deploys the GPT models. So performance should be pretty similar.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll get back to you. Right.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, just vary of time. So, yes. So again, right, as part of the instruction, you can give the response style, like start with empathy and acknowledgement, be clear, friendly, use a non-technical language for the end customer, and also, talk about the safety and boundaries, like being specific to what the agent wants to do. Like in this case, never guarantee any refunds or replacements, like, so the agent doesn't go and promise something for your customers. And as I said, like, being specific on the expectations, right? Like, give the outputs either in a chat format or in an email format, that they could just, copy and paste for themselves. All right, so the next section is the knowledge source, so which is basically the source of data which this agent will use to generate the details. So there are different ways on how you can add the knowledge to the agent. So in this case, you can see like you can add a SharePoint link, you can link it to a Teams channel, you can link it to an Outlook or some external websites as well. So for the sake of demo, as I said, I've created 3 policy documents, which I've got it stored in my local PC, which I'm going to try and upload here quickly. Sweet. As you can see, I'm just uploading 3 policy documents. One is regarding the escalation playbook, returns and refunds policy, and shipping and delivery, documents. So it's just making sure that you are just having this toggle button turned off. So the agent is more specific for your company and for your customers, so that it doesn't get the websites from the external public internet and probably again trying to hallucinate some certain responses that he wants to give to the end user. So just make sure that if it's an internal facing or customer facing agent and you want the response from the Copilot to go out from the specific files or data like internal files. So make sure that this one is turned off. And there are some few more other features like where you can reference an org chart within a company and profile info, so the agent better understands the entire company profile to give a better response. So when a CEO interacts with an agent, so the agent understand like, okay, cool, this is a CEO who is interacting with me, so it gives a better tailored response to the specific individual working with the company. So these are the different knowledge sources that you can add using the agent builder, and you can now add different capabilities, right? So you can turn on the creating document capability where you want the agent to create its own document like in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. So these are some of the capabilities that you can turn on. And if you want the agent to start creating the images, that's another options, or the capability which you can give the agent to have the capability to create more interactive images or art that you want the agent to respond for it for yourself or for your customers. Cool. So these are some of the capabilities and knowledge sources. So the final section is how do you get started for your customers, right? So I think we are talking about the prompting a lot. So as an agent builder, like or as a company that you want this agent to be consumed by your customers, you can suggest few prompts for your end customers to get started, right? So some of the common queries with the customer service agent would be like where is my order would be a common prompt that customers might use. So you can add a title called prompt, and you can say like the message will be like my order hasn't arrived yet, can you check the status and tell me what happens next? So you are suggesting a prompt for your customers to be used when they start using agents. So I'll just show you like what that means and how easy it is to use this prompt when they actually use the agent. But I'm just giving you an idea of you could add the suggested prompts for your end users to actually get started or start asking questions or start interacting with an agent. So I'm just going to add a few example prompts.
Yeah, you do that. And did you press the create button to come up with one? Or
No. So
what's happening up there? There's some sort of magic.
No,
I've
just got some pre-built prompts with me. So
right. So you're just control Ving them in and then Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
just very off time,
No, that's good. Yes, we are kind of running towards the end of the session, actually.
Yeah.
We've still got lots of questions flying in, so I'm going to try and keep some of them until the end to let you get through your demo.
Cool. So I've just added 3 different prompts, like the common prompts that the end customers can use when it comes to a customer service agent, like where is my order? Can I get a refund? And say my item has arrived in a damaged position. What should I do to get this fixed? Cool. So these are some of the, or these are the settings or the configurations that you need to undergo to configure a simple agent. And once you are satisfied with the instructions, with the knowledge sources, with the capabilities and the suggested prompts, we just go and hit this create button to sort of create an agent. Cool. So it says your agent was created successfully. It's been labeled as internal, like that's because of my current security policies. So if you just go to the agent, cool, this is how the agent looks, right? So where it says it is a customer service agent, and there's a nice little chat box, where the customers can put in their questions. And this is where, like an easiest way where it displays the suggested prompts, which, which we configured during the setup. So like, I know as an end user, like I could just go and hit this prompt and say, I'm just going to say, hey, my order hasn't arrived yet. Can you check the status and tell me what happens next? So if I just try and hit that thing. So what it's going to do is, because we have added the knowledge sources to be restricted to the policy documents, so it is expected to return the response based on the policy documents which we have uploaded. So and it is not going to reaching out to the website or to hallucinate the response. Cool. So what it says is, based on the instructions, we want the agent to be empathetic. So which is why it says, I'm sorry, your order hasn't arrived yet. So it is actually apologizing. It is understanding the frustration of the end customer of the order not being arrived. So, and it is apologizing, for that. So it says, I'm sorry for your order hasn't arrived. I know it's frustrating. So, and it's now giving the solution on what needs to happen next to the end users. So this is one of the use cases that the end customers can use with this customer service agent. So I'm just gonna be one of those bad customers, and I'm gonna say like I want a refund for something I bought, say 45 days ago, right? So I'm just one of those customers where I just buy something and then always try to get a refund for it. So we'll see what the agent responds back for this query. Sweet. So what it is saying is, it is still understanding why I'm asking for for a refund. So it's not being super negative, even though I'm asking for a refund. So it always refers back to the policy document, that we have given as a knowledge source, and it says, refunds are only available within 30 days. And since this purchase was 45 days ago, it is outside of the standard return window. And towards the end, it also gives a nice internal escalation summary, like where the agent will be able to escalate it to a personal, and it is asking for some additional details of the order number, issue type, and the delivery date, so the agent can start escalating to the next steps of the customer service engagement that you normally have. So this is some of the use cases of having a customer service agent. So there are different ways on how you can have this agent to make work for you. So it's more of starting you to think on what are the different things that you can try to solve a problem, if it's for you internally or for your customers, and start getting started with this agent builder to start creating an agent.
Cool. Can I ask a question, Barath, if that's all right? Because I've got a few comments and queries coming in. So when you've made this agent, and the example in this instance is a customer service agent, and you've got it here on your Copilot app, it's external facing, but how does it get externally facing? So clients, how do you deploy this to be able to reach your end customers? That's one of the questions. And then also questions are around, well, when you have beyond the prompts that you selected down the bottom for them to choose, what happens if they put in something a little bit more nuanced, bespoke? What kind of results would they get back if they're not selecting one of the 3 pre-designed prompts down the bottom? So two questions in and around the example that you're showing
I
here?
think really good questions. I'll start with the latest one. So if you look at this prompt which I gave, like it is most random prompt, right? So it wasn't part of the 3 suggested prompt which we created. So the agent will still, refer back to the policy documents. It understands the prompt. It refers back what is the best response.
Looking back to those reference documents to answer any question that's posed. Okay.
Yeah, and then based on the policy, it's gonna give what is the best response, to answer this particular question.
In line with how you've asked it to respond. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that answers that one. That was a question from Pravani. So and the other one is like how now that you've created this great agent, how could you use it with your actual clients?
That is a really good question to ask. So I just want to give the difference, right? So between an agent builder. So the next version of creating agents is called Copilot Studio. With the agent builder, so agent builder is specifically used for internal purpose, or like you want to publish the agents, say, to internal people within the organization. So that is the main use of agent builder. So you can share this agent with multiple people. Like as you can see, there is a quick share icon on the top, where you would be able to share with your internal team members or for them to consume. But for this agent to be published externally, so you will have to copy it to another Microsoft tool called Copilot Studio, which will have the capability to get this agent published to public websites.
Sounds like we've got another webinar coming up on Copilot Studio.
Cool. All right, so that's all I've got for agent builder. I just want to quickly share one more use cases around the agent mode within Microsoft Word. So let me share my screen again. So this is one of the cool features which I would say that can be used by everyone. Cool. Here is a blank Word document, right? So what I'm going to do is, say, for example, all right. Before I go to that, let me just try and save this document. I'm going to say demo agent doc. Oh, is it now done? Awesome. All right. So so this is a blank document, right? And what I want to do is I want to interact with the agent which I have created in the M365 Copilot, right? And I want to say, for example, write a document to do something, based on the information that I could get from the agent, and use the agent mode to actually write something, right? So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, there is a Copilot option within this Word. So once you click that option, if you click on this plus icon, you can actually refer to all of your agents that you have created. All right. For some reason, the agent which I created is not showing, which is awesome. Ideally, it should take some time for it to reflect back into the M365 environment, but this is the place where you can refer to the pre-built agents. You can ask a question, and then you can use this agent mode, which is called as Edit with Copilot. Say I'm going to say, hey, create a set of customer-facing response template, for say where is my order, where is my delivery, and everything. So just see this in action.
Now we are running out of time, so I'm just giving you the MC wind up.
Yeah.
And I do have.
It should be done.
I have a couple of questions I'm saving while that's generating some response. Grace is asking, I think this is a pretty straightforward one. Can the agent connect and edit different Microsoft apps? For example, can I create an agent that can read data from an Excel file and ask it to generate a graph in PowerPoint for me? Can I get it to repeat? Obviously, Grace is stuck in Excel a lot, and she likely needs to be able to churn out some graphs for tabling to the board.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's something that can be worked on. So probably not just by using the agent builder. So probably we'll have to use something like Copilot Studio to have multi-agent orchestration. Like, you have to have an agent to sort of read the Excel file, and then you can have another agent to sort of generating the PowerPoint slide. So you can be more specific on the kind of data, and having both agents to talk to each other and just have the whole workflow working.
Okay, great.
So if I could just add to that one quickly as well, I think this is a understanding from a use case perspective, the investment of time to make it work from like a pure agent experience versus making sure you're using the right steps within Copilot to get the job done as well. Because if you want to say utilize an Excel document, turn it into a board ready report with graphs as well, you can do that with one of the deep research functions or models within the Copilot chat screen, and then bring that into a PowerPoint, or save that as a file and then use Copilot within PowerPoint to then bring that in as well. So whilst it's definitely possible through one of the tiers of Copilot Studio, there's also other ways to do that within M365. So just to be mindful of how much development time you want to put in versus if you're able to do it with some of the existing functionality in the Microsoft 365 Copilot side of things.
Great, thank you.
Oh, awesome. Sorry, I'll just finish off my thing, and then we could just go to the question. So as you can see here, like, I just gave a single prompt, asking to create a set of customer facing templates, and then gave a bunch of instruction using the agent mode, and we never typed any information into the agent mode. So like the Copilot has gone in and written all the information for you, which is pretty much time consuming. And what I actually wanted to showcase is, you could pretty much refer the agent that you have created. So where all these responses can be specific to the internal policy documents that the agent already consumed. So that is one of the features or benefits of using the agent mode or using the agents within the M365 ecosystem, so which you can refer to. Cool.
Great.
Awesome. I think that's all I've got for the demo.
Yeah. It sounds like everybody wants to stay on the line for another hour and talk Copilot. But if you are not yet a Copilot Microsoft 365 user and you're a KMT client, please reach out to us. The first step would be to do a Copilot readiness assessment. We want to make sure that your environment is set up and secured for being able to deploy such a powerful engine like Copilot. So if you haven't done that already, please reach out to your KMT account manager. If you're not a KMT client, you can still reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you as well. Now, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a full session. I feel like we could have made that one longer and gone, 5% slower. It would have been really good. Everybody had such great questions coming in. It was almost hard to keep up with it today, but it was exciting. It was like being on a roller coaster ride for me. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And I really just want to extend my thank you to Bharath and Aidan for joining us again on another KMT Pax8 Microsoft Copilot workshop. Thank you for joining us, both of you, and to everybody else on the call. We're going to end it here, and we look forward to seeing you on our next workshop.